Hey, welcome to the channel. We hope that you enjoy today's stories and check out the chapters on the video to see all the stories for today. But before we get into this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. So let's get into the video.
What is the worst physical pain you have ever experienced?
Experience 1. About 14 years ago, I decided to get my tonsils out. My ENT noticed how closed up my sinus passages were and before the surgery asked if I'd like them opened up as well. Sure. Let's get it all done. Recovery was okay. About 3 months later, I started getting a headache. Within 24 hours, I was pretty much immobilized from the pain and kept a warm compress over my eyes to keep the light out. I went back to my specialist, and he said,
"You have a migraine."
and prescribed Vicodin or Percocet. When that didn't do anything to help the pain, even doubling the dose, I called my ENT back. He said,
Go to the ER.
but in that tone that says, "You big baby." They stuck something in my arm, and I passed out and woke up feeling great. The next morning, I looked like someone punched me in the eye. Went back to my ENT, and he showed me the scan they took in the ER. I had such a severe sinus infection I was fit to burst. He was very apologetic for basically brushing off my concern. Experience 2. Tooth abscess in the early days of the pandemic. I wasn't able to see a dentist for 5 days. 5 days of the worst and most unrelenting pain I've ever experienced. I couldn't sleep or eat the entire time. I was losing my mind by the end of it. Experience 3. I am one of a small percentage of people who, when quickly detoxing from heroin, actually came close to dying. Alcohol and benzodiazepines are typically the two substances that kill people when they try to quit suddenly. Heroin just feels like you're going to die, but 99% of the time you don't. In 2011, after many attempts, I finally gave up on the stuff and hid myself away in my apartment. About 12 to 18 hours and I got all the usual symptoms. Within about a day, I had a headache so bad I could barely walk. About 36 hours and the headache had turned into what I can only describe as someone taking a wide-gauge knitting needle and shoving it through the back of my skull and swishing it around my brain. I got hot white spots in my vision that would expand and contract with the pain levels, and as they expanded, I went blind. I lost a bunch of motor function, and the only thing I could do is scream bloody murder, and I actually peed myself as I crawled to the front door of my apartment. My neighbors thought I was being assaulted or worse, called the police, and they arrived pretty quickly. I told them everything, was rushed to a local hospital and went through a bunch of tests. They discovered that my brain was bleeding from acute opioid withdrawal. The silver lining to that is it allowed me to be qualified for medical detox, which is something typically only reserved for alcohol and benzos in my area. So yeah, definitely the worst pain ever. If I had a gun in my hand at the moment, I would have been fully prepared to end it all given the level of pain. 12 years later, and many struggles, I am about 10 years free from opiates and almost 3 from everything else. Sobriety is a gift. Thanks for reading my novel. Experience 4. I had severe breast pain from my cancer that grew rapidly and fast. The worst pain I ever experienced. I felt so much relief during my first round of chemo, and the pain disappeared within 2 days. So worth it. I am doing a lot better now, and the cancer disappeared in my breast. I took barely any pain meds for my surgeries because they were nothing. There is a chance I am NED or NEAD. Experience 5. The day before I started first grade, I accidentally sliced a deep cut through my hand that nearly severed my pinky entirely. I actually didn't even register it right away because the knife cut through the nerve on that side of the hand. The worst pain wasn't the cut itself, but sticking my hand in the disinfecting solution in the ER was a feeling similar to my entire hand being set on fire. Experience 6. I had abdominal surgery, search RPLND, for cancer 10 years ago. There is a scar that goes from my crotch to just below my sternum where they took all my guts out, extracted the tumors, and put my guts back in. About 8 hours after surgery, pumped full of drugs, I decided to go for a walk. I used the bed control to seat myself upright, used my 4-dolly as support to get out of bed, and then carefully, like a bend-over geriatric, shuffled my way to the door. See, the trick was to support myself as much as possible with my lower back and keep my abdomen out of it. And it worked for a few steps until the vertigo hit me. I lurched forward and tensed. And then I felt my intestines settle, the hemispheres of my abdomen strain against the internal stitches, the two halves sort of float independently, and every layer of skin rip against the staples. I basically got to feel a nice little sample of evisceration, and there was no amount of narcotic numbness that could stop the pain that deep. Truly, I empathize with William Wallace. It wasn't fun. So, I puked blood, which didn't feel nice, shuffled my way back to bed, and hit the drug button. Experience 7. Trigeminal neuralgia. It's very hard to describe TN to people who don't have it, but I think this is probably my best way of describing it. The anesthetic injection that's administered by your dentist often feels like an electric bolt going up your nose into your eye socket. Well, imagine this pain starting anywhere in your gums, mouth, tongue or teeth, then traveling through your cheekbone and out of your head over and over again for minutes at a time before subsiding for anything from a minute to minutes, leaving an intense burning and throbbing, pins and needles sensation before it begins all over again. It's relentless. Experience 8. This will no doubt pale in comparison to the entries here. It was gas pain. Started around 10 p.m., couldn't shake it. I tried everything. It just got worse and worse. I started having problems breathing. It was so damn painful. Every breath was like a stab wound internally. As a grown man, I was whimpering and just debilitated. Around 2:30 a.m., my roommate brought me to the hospital and I ended up passing gas literally outside of the hospital, and like that, I felt relief. I've broken bones before, and I've also had gas pain before, but this one time was the worst physical pain I've felt. Like my guts were twisting and someone was stabbing them with a HIT knife. Edit, well, it would seem I'm not alone in this experience. Lots of good advice is provided here to help deal with it. The cat-cow yoga pose, and one I hadn't heard of that's apparently easier, the happy baby pose.
Do you like listening to these stories? Do you want to hear more of them? Then click that like button, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And check the description for links to more videos and interesting stories.
Experience 9. Being on fire. I screamed like a wounded animal. You could probably hear me from miles away. I almost fought a nurse when she wasn't going to give me more morphine. Edit, since everyone is tagging onto here. Mine honestly wasn't that bad, just flash fire from gasoline. I was 20. I had second-degree burns on my face, but I don't have any scarring. Some of these stories under me are pretty horrific, and having been there, I'm so sorry to every one of them. I don't think I would have been in more pain if I had been more burned, even. I just would have had the same pain in more areas, if that makes sense. Experience 10. Testicular torsion. It is as painful as it sounds. Imagine someone kicking you directly in the balls. And continuing to kick you in the balls every other minute. And if a doctor doesn't perform surgery within a few hours, you lose your testicle. Edit, for any guys reading, if it helps, it happens randomly and cannot really be prevented, usually to teens, but also adults. If ever you have a persistent and very sharp testicular or lower abdomen pain, seemingly out of nowhere, for me it was during a normal morning after breakfast, don't wait around more than an hour and go straight to emergency. Experience 11. I have endometriosis. My pain sometimes is so bad that I will be my husband to knock me out, or I'll punch my legs because it somehow makes it less painful in my pelvis if I inflict pain somewhere else. I've had 4 major surgeries in 10 years and will likely need 1 more at some point. Some people think it's just painful periods, but it's not. I've been fully disabled 24/7 by the pain and other symptoms for years at a time. Because it is a female disease, no one really does much research on it, even though 10% of the female population has it. Experience 12. Ingrowing toenail on my big toe in high school. Was really hoping it would fix itself and let it get worse and worse over quite some time. Eventually went to the GP, who said he had a great solution, showing me a piece of a BIC pen where he cut through one side, creating a C-shaped little tube about half a centimeter long. He grabbed my foot, held it near the nail, and before I had registered what was about to happen, he stated, "Someone's going to scream," and jammer it on my toe, through the flesh. I was not able to sit still for an hour and had to keep moving around or the pain would be too overwhelming. It helped and the toe healed, but never again. Experience 13. Even after having kids, the worst pain I ever felt was getting my ear nearly ripped off by my friend's dog when I was little. The pain was unlike anything else I have ever experienced since then. I had to have over 60 stitches and I couldn't hear out of that ear for quite a while. It took until I was an adult to even be comfortable with dogs again. Experience 14. Shingles. Shingles is when a nerve is infected by the same virus that causes chicken pox. Most people are lucky enough to get the infection closer to the skin, which produces a burning, itchy rash. I got it at the nerve root, right next to my spine, under my shoulder blade. Searing waves of pain that nothing could take down. They handed me a retroviral prescription and told me to come back if it's not gone in 6 weeks. Experience 15. Broken and infected bone after hip replacement prosthesis. Had to do a total hip replacement a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, one of the prostheses got infected and I had to undergo surgery again to remove it. In the process of removing it, my femoral bone got broken. I also had no joint left in there, so everything was dislocated, on top of the osteomyelitis in the bone that was already there. When I woke up, I didn't even move, and I was in tears. When they moved me into my bed, I almost passed out. It was pretty much like in the scenes with men from the Middle Ages, taking a shot of whiskey and biting on something before someone tried to fix their broken bone. And it continued like that until it healed. As my muscles relaxed and contracted throughout the day, the bone moved, and I stopped breathing because of the pain. I couldn't move even to the bedside for weeks. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Experience 16. Pancreatitis. Easily. I've broken my face. Literally half my jaw broke off and was hanging in my cheek. Yeah, that hurt. But it was absolutely nothing compared to pancreatitis. That's the organ that scares the shit out of me and will probably be the literal death of me because mine is pretty weak, and if something goes wrong with it like cancer, it is 100% death. But pancreatitis is when it freaks out and leaks digestive juices that start eating your insides. And that is exactly what it feels like. Crippling, crying, pleading for release type pain. Not fun. Experience 17. Had my hands crushed a few years ago. The bone under my pinky finger in my right hand was broken and turned back. The female doctor just had nurses hold me down and manually set it with no painkillers. Took 20 minutes. I screamed louder than any of the times I gave birth. I wanted to punch that witch. Never got any pain meds for after either, and she was pissed it took so long. Never paid the bill and cut the cast off me when it was time. Again, screw that witch. Experience 18. Endometrial biopsy even with an oxycodone pill. IUD placement was the most painful thing I had been through previously, hence why I requested the oxy. Biopsy was so much worse though. Arched back, shrieking while they held my legs down because I was unintentionally kicking. I feel like I turned into someone else and didn't even recognize my voice as the one shrieking. My poor OBGYN was almost as traumatized as I was. She felt so bad. My husband had to sit down for a bit after because he felt faint from the ordeal. I still tear up thinking about it 8 months later and need reassurance from my husband that I never have to do that again because I refuse to do that without sedation. When I had to replace the IUD, my OBGYN immediately approved sedation for that too. I have a chronic illness and am very used to going to doctors, but after the biopsy, I noticed I'm more on edge at appointments, and I realize I probably need more time to work through that traumatizing procedure. Experience 19. I have PCOS and some of the cramps I get are literally worse than the pain I felt from getting run over, worse than breaking my ankle, and worse than any pain I have had from ankle surgery. My hormonal IUD has thankfully reduced the frequency of my cycle, but even sometimes I'll get a cramp from ovulation. Experience 20. I got hit by a golf cart at a work tournament and pinned between it and another golf cart. I thought for sure I had broken my leg, but I just had some ligament damage. It took me a second to realize what happened. My first thought was,
did I actually just get hit by a fucking golf cart?
and then the pain set in. The guy driving was not intoxicated. He had never driven a golf cart before that day and didn't realize that they didn't slow down like cars do if you release the gas pedal. It kept driving and he panicked.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.